So if anyone ever tells you that the internet is no way to make real friends, you send them to me, and I will tell them the story of my friendship with Sheria Reid. Back in 2005, I was trying to get readers for my blog and decided to repost everything I wrote there on the AOL Journals program. I just come out of a nasty drug addiction that had derailed my life, and I wrote about every step in sobriety with a mixture of wide-eyed wonder and merciless self-examination. In other words, I was so obsessed that I didn't even read anybody else's journals at first. Thank God others were more gracious. One day a new commenter appeared, and this woman with the odd first name rapidly became my favorite. Apart from the fact that even her short observations betrayed an awesome command of the English language, she always acknowledged the one point I had made in the entry that I had most wanted to be acknowledged. This was my first lesson in Sheria. If you were worth being gotten, she got you. This was her singular gift, the reason she did friendship so well. She loved you for the reasons you wanted to be loved. And as a writer, there is nothing about me I wanted to be loved for more than my writing. Soon enough, I let her know what a pleasure it was to read her comments, because she was not just insightful, but always added something from her own experience to create a conversation. These back and forths turned out to be precursors to comment threads on Facebook, which we all know Sheria made into an art form. So I started reading her journal, and our mutual admiration club was born. We learned a lot about each other, much of it through private emails. I knew she'd survived major surgery, and as I had survived HIV, we both understood something fundamental about proximity to death. I learned she'd lost a tremendous amount of weight and that she was a wonderful poet and singer. I found out that she taught English, then worked her way through law school, and had finally become a kick-ass legislative analyst for the North Carolina Assembly. I knew she adored her parents, and her sister Rhonda, and her brother-in-law Bobby. When her mother died, I was there for her just as she was there for me when my mother died earlier this year. I coined the term blogamy for Sheria, meaning a friend you make because you read each other's blogs. When Facebook came into being, we talked politics incessantly. I called her on the night of the 2008 election. We were both ecstatic, but she made sure to let me know she was also sad about the passing of Prop 8. I can safely say that we gay people had no better advocate than Sheria. I'm so happy she got to see last week's landmark decision allowing us to marry. Interestingly, the only big argument we ever had was about politics, specifically concerning the president, who I love 100% of the time, but occasionally critiqued on policy. I felt that Obama was far too accommodating to an opposition that clearly was not going to reward him for his civility or willingness to compromise. Sheria got a little bit defensive on the president's behalf. It was the mother lioness in her. One thing she did that drove the mother lioness and me crazy was visit the kind of ignorant website no sane person, black or white, should ever visit. She would read the irrational, racist, and hateful comments and feel wounded by each and every remark. She would tell me that she wasn't hurt, and perhaps she wasn't intellectually, but I knew she struggled mightily not to take the hate personally. And I don't think she always succeeded. I know that she battled depression and insomnia. I think most of us knew that. And that was hard because, really, she's one of the friends for which I think we all most wished happiness. Sheria's greatest strength and greatest weakness were the same. She was extraordinarily sensitive. And I don't mean in the way we associate that word with being defensive or prickly. I mean it in the sense of a person who feels way more than is advisable in this world, so full of suffering. This sensitivity gave her an extraordinary capacity for empathy, but it made her very vulnerable as well. If I could have given her anything at all, it would have been a layer of inner armor that allowed her to triage better the slings and arrows of life, that helped her to not quite take so much into and onto her heart. I would imagine this sensitivity may have had something to do with her leaving teaching. I'm sure the vast majority of the students loved her, but there were no doubts a few cruel ones. The law, though, provided her with an intellectual infrastructure in which she could take refuge and bloom. She could strut that formidable brain across the page like a skinny bitch at a beauty pageant. And I know it gave her a great deal of pleasure and provided her with a considerable amount of validation. When she started a new blog, it was me who suggested calling it The Examined Life. Because really, did anything get past her? She may have been too well-bred and fundamentally nice to call you on some things, but you know she noticed everything. She was just someone you always wanted on your side, even if occasionally you had to watch her head explode when once again she explained that haters were dim-witted and only dimwits were haters. Sheria's amazing agility with words made her a Facebook powerhouse. She was the center of that cadre of ex-AOL journalers whom she introduced to each other online. Some of them have become friends I now can't imagine not knowing. She reveled in that and pointed it out to me often. She would say, about Aaron or Bruce or Phyllis or Beth, "I introduced you to, you know." I once called her Sheria Zuckerberg. Just a few weeks ago, Sheria asked me if I might be willing to friend her sister, Rhonda. Of course, I answered. Long overdue, in fact. I was actually very touched by how thankful she was, as if she felt that she was passing along something really precious to her sister. Sheria always made me feel so valued as a friend. I would send her new drafts of my screenplay, and sometimes they weren't necessarily improvements, but she was unfailingly supportive. When she visited California a few years ago, we went to see Craig Ferguson together, and she asked me where I wanted to go to lunch. "Oh, anywhere," she said. Off we went to the Ivy in Beverly Hills. We didn't see any stars, but we didn't need to. We were the stars. At least she always made me feel like one. Once in a while she would tell me, "I know you hate this and it makes you uncomfortable, but I just have to let you know once a year that I adore you." She was right. It did make me uncomfortable, and it does when anyone says it to me, but I understood how important it was for her to express it. So we agreed that she could say it once a year, and I would even say it back, but only in the way I say to my husband and a few very cherished friends, which is, "I hate you, go to hell." I'm happy to say she felt honored to be in this very small circle. In her next life, I think Sheria is due a handsome husband and a bevy of kids and grandkids. But I have to say that in this incarnation, her friends felt the luckier for the road she took. We were all a little bit married to her, and I think we all feel a little bit widowed.